everyone, my name is Avram K, and you are watching Alfei Panim Parshas Shoftim 2026. There's a scene near the end of Shoftim that should bother us perhaps more than it does. A body is found lying in a field between two towns, and nobody knows who killed him. No suspect, no witness, no leads. And instead of launching an investigation, the Torah does something almost bizarre. It sends the elders of the nearer town out with a calf and has them break the neck of the calf in a valley and makes them stand over the dead calf and declare, Yodeinu lo shachu es adam hazeh ve'eineinu lo ro'u. Our hands did not spill this blood and our eyes did not see it. Read that declaration again. Nobody accused these elders of anything. Nobody thinks they're killers, so why are they standing in a valley, hands out, swearing their innocence over a calf? If you've been with me the last few weeks, you might know where this is going. Last week in Parshas Re'eh, we looked at blood poured on the ground, kamayim, like water, requiring nothing of anyone. In Acharei Mos, the Torah gave us the mitzvah of kisui adam, thereby refusing to let the blood sit there unattended, manufacturing an obligation on whoever happens to be standing nearby, whether or not they did anything wrong. Egla Arufa is the same idea, scaled up from one bystander to an entire town. Nobody killed this stranger, at least nobody that we know of, but somebody let him walk through their area unnoticed, unfed, unhoused, and now he's dead in a field. And the Torah wants to know, could this have been prevented? Rashi's reading makes this explicit. The elders aren't swearing, we didn't murder him. They're swearing something much more uncomfortable. We didn't send him off without food or without an escort. That's not an alibi for murder, that's an alibi for indifference. Here's the through line that connects all these ideas together. In Kisui Adam, one puddle of blood is enough to obligate whoever's standing there. In Egla Arufa, one body is enough to implicate an entire town that perhaps never even met the man. That's not a coincidence, it's the same halachic logic but in a larger package. The Torah isn't asking who's guilty. It's asking who was close enough to notice and didn't. Proximity creates responsibility, not proof of wrongdoing, proximity. Simply being nearby. The stranger passed through your town, so now his welfare was in some sense on your desk. And if he dies anonymously and unattended, the Torah wants your town to feel the weight of that, even without a shred of evidence tying any of you to his death. A single onlooker at a shechita can be named and held responsible in an instant for kisui adam. A town can't. Nobody in a crowd of 100 feels personally chaya for a stranger they never saw. That's not a bug in human nature. It's the bystander effect operating at large scale. The bigger the group, the lighter the sense that any single person is obligated. Egla Arufa refuses to let a town hide behind its own size. The elders, not a random citizen, but the leadership, the ones whose job it is to notice, are dragged out to a valley and forced to make the town answer collectively for a death none of them individually caused. Here's a contemporary example in secular society that I think is related. In the late 1990s, Madison Square Park in New York City had fallen into serious disrepair, neglected, decrepit, the kind of public space people walk past without really even seeing anymore. It had become, in the exact sense the Torah is warning about, kamayim, background, beneath notice, requiring nothing of the thousands of people passing through it every day. A particular restaurateur had his offices nearby. He didn't cause the park's decline. He wasn't a city official. He had no formal obligation. But he did something almost no one else did. He noticed, and then he acted. He spearheaded an $11 million restoration, co-founded the Madison Square Park Conservancy, and as part of the park's revitalization, launched a temporary hot dog cart in 2001 to support the revitalization effort. That cart became so popular that it was made a permanent kiosk, and it was named Shake Shack, which opened in 2004 and went public in 2015, and now operates in over 400 locations worldwide. The entire Shake Shack empire, a company now valued at over $4 billion, exists because one person refused to treat a neglected public space kamayim, like abandoned water, like nothing. He didn't have a grand vision for a global burger chain. He saw a park that had been left to stagnate, and he couldn't let it just lie there. That, lahavdil, is the anti-Egla Arufa, the person who saw something stagnating in his vicinity and decided that proximity was enough to make it his problem. Re'eh gave us the danger, blood treated like water, life treated as disposable simply because nobody's watching closely enough. Back in Acharei Moshe Torah gave us the fix at the individual level by the mitzvah of Kisui Adam, make the bystander at the scene obligated. Shoftim takes that same fix and stretches it across an entire community because the bystander effect doesn't only happen to individuals, it happens to whole cities that quietly assume somebody else is keeping an eye on the people passing through. The elders standing in that valley aren't being punished, they're being made to feel something ordinary life lets us avoid. That a stranger passed through our world and we don't actually know what happened to him after he left our sight. Egla Rufa interrupts that assumption on purpose. It says you don't get to assume. You have to go stand in a valley and account for what you don't know. Maybe the real question Egla Rufa is putting to us today isn't who killed this stranger. Nobody will ever know that. The real question is whether our own community has people passing through its edges right now who we've quietly assumed are somebody else's responsibility to notice. The Torah doesn't let elders walk away from that question with a shrug. It makes them go stand in a valley and answer it out loud. That's a lesson that each of us can perhaps take into our own lives. Have a wonderful Shabbos. My name is Avram K. and you're watching Alfei Panim.